Welcome to Cyber Risk Insider, where we explore the world of cybersecurity and help you stay ahead of the ever-evolving digital landscape. I'm Casey, and in this episode, we are going to use TryHackMe to take advantage of a couple different vulnerabilities, gain a foothold, user access onto the system, escalate our privileges, and we'll have root access to control this box remotely. This box specifically is called Billing, so stay tuned. Okay, so we're going to be going over billing. As you can see, I've already gone through and completed this box. It shouldn't be too long. It is an easier one. But nonetheless, I thought that this was a fun one to complete, so I was going to share the experience, create a walkthrough, and kind of go from there. I've already got the attack box up and running, so let's go ahead and dive in. Let me just make sure I still have a connection here, and I'm good. All right, I've already gone ahead and created different tabs here for things that I know I'm going to need, such as the enumeration stuff, then map fuff, and netcat, which we will use to create our remote shell, and we'll, kind of go from there. So, where is our IP? Do I still have that pasted? Let's see. Whoop. Let's just grab it from here. Copy that. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to run an nmap scan. The one that I always like to use just to kind of hit everything all at once is this. Got an extra space there. Yeah, it looks like it. Let's grab that IP. Paste that in, and we'll let that run. And what we'll also do is I always like to make it a good habit, just go hit the IP, see what's open. Chances are, port 80 or 443 will be open, so I assume we can already kind of start enumerating out our target here. Whoop. That would help. Oh, do I have that pasted, copied incorrectly? I don't know if the nmap scan's going to go. Okay, well, it doesn't look like 443 is open. Why don't we get rid of the S here? We'll run on 80. Aha, there we go. We got some action. Yeah, this failed. Let's throw a 1 in here. And then I'm going to need this IP too. Whoa, what is going on there? What? Okay. Copy that up. All right, let's get that going. Let's go check out this page. Okay, so we have, actually, hold on. Let me go through this nmap script for those that don't know. All right, so we're going to run nmap. Nmap allows you to go out to the remote host, we'll scan, see if that IP is alive, and then it'll go through a number of ports and services to see which ones are alive and which ones are not. I'm going a little further in depth with this scan in that I am looking for the service that is running. So when it discovers a port, it'll also enumerate that port. And we'll hopefully be able to banner grab certain aspects and information, such as version numbers, page titles, things of that nature, for that specific service, such as like FTP, HTTP, SSH, anything service-wise. Once it discovers those services, it will also run a bunch of scripts against it. So these are things that it identifies off of those service information. Nmap has a built-in little database that will look for that type of information in some type of vulnerable script and provide us with information back. N isn't too much big of a deal. It's just telling it not to do any DNS resolving. T4 is me just throttling it. 5 is the fastest you can go. 0 is the slowest. Because we're not dealing with any having to deviate from hiding ourselves from firewalls and IDS and IPS systems, I'm just gonna go with 4. I don't want to go with 5 because we might miss stuff. If it's too fast, you could miss things. PN is just telling it to skip pinging this host. We already know this host is up There's no need to do any, ping scans. And then this is just saying all ports. So that's every single port number from 0 to, oh gosh, what is it, 65, 535. So we'll let that run. Looks like we already have our page here. This is what we are targeting and enumerating at the moment with Nmap. So we will receive more information on that. Just for the sake of trying it, default credentials and misconfiguration is a big thing, so we'll just try admin password, see if we can get in, and we don't. So let's just view the page source. Don't know who that is. All right, back into it. So as far as page source goes, just trying to see if we can find any version numbers. Maybe the developer left comments in here, anything that might be some type of information that we can use to take advantage of this web page, this application, any of the services on the back end. Okay, not seeing anything in particular. And I'm just gonna go ahead and apologize in advance. I am a father, I am a dog dad, I am a husband, so the house is pretty loud, so you're gonna hear things. I am a normal, regular dude, nothing to hide here. Okay. So the page source doesn't look like there's anything really relevant. Let's check back at that scan. Okay, that's still going. That's going to take some time. Why don't we go ahead and run fuff, ffuff, whatever people call it. So the script that I will run with this it's going to be this one. So just so you guys know where I'm pulling all this from, these are my notes. I just use OneNote. Some people use whatever they want. It doesn't matter too much. I have a Microsoft subscription and I get OneNote, so that's what I use. But I already have all this stuff pre-built out. Taking notes is essential in this kind of stuff. And just organizing things out. So like I said, I've already completed this box, so I've already got the steps here, trying to make it easier for you guys to better understand, what it is that's going on here and provide detailed information. All right, so what fuff is going to do? We're going to tell it to start fuzzing from after this slash here. So what it'll do is it'll fuzz and just try a bunch of different words and see if we get any hits on expanding out how this page is architectured even further. So for instance, if we were to fuzz this part after and use the word list that we're providing, let's say admin is one in that word list. So it'll do admin, enter. It'll do that for us. And then I'll be like, okay, login. Okay, doesn't exist. It'll do, I don't know, who knows, about us. So it'll go through page by page by page. And it'll do that for us. And I'm providing it the word list of Raft Medium word lists. There are a ton of word lists that you can choose. I'm just using that one for the sake that I know it already works. For what it is. And then, so that we don't get a bunch of crazy nonsense and whatnot, I'm also telling it to just kind of look for certain extensions. With this being a PHP site based on what we kind of saw from the information here on the source page. Where was it? I thought I saw some PHP stuff. Maybe not. I thought it was. Somewhere when I did this before, I realized it was a PHP site. Maybe it was in the Nmap scan. Something kind of pointed me in that direction, which is why I chose this. So I ended up just doing, putting PHP in there and then just specifying some other stuff like, markdown language and txt files just to see if we get any hits. And then I'm telling it to match 22 or match 200, which is just saying, hey, if we get a HTTP response with a 200 OK, just show that stuff. So anything that gets 404 errors or redirects with 301s and things like that just won't be on here. So it will just keep things clean. And then I like to color code things if they're easier to see. So I just throw the -C in here. Okay, we'll let that run. Did mmap finish? Mmap did. So let's go take a look here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 different ports. So it looks like we've got SSH open on 22. We know that 80 is open on HTTP. We're already viewing that website here. Looks like there's a MariaDB running SQL. And then we've got whatever this asterisk call manager is. So some things that we can do here is we can learn more about what this page is. Apparently it's called Magnus Billing, and I don't really know much about it. Nmap's kind of coming back. There's nothing here that really stands out that says like attack this. Obviously there's a MySQL portion there. That's a possibility, but unless we have some type of like username password, we're probably not going to get too far. However, the one thing that does stand out is this asterisk. I have a feeling that that's probably going to be the direction that we're going, and we also have a version number here. So looking up asterisk vulnerabilities for that specific version number is going to be what we want to research. So as we moved along through this, let's copy this. What? It means server not found. I wonder why that doesn't work in there. Weird. Okay, so anyways, one of the articles I found was this one. So there's, after I did some research on what Magnus is, using some different search keys, such as like Magnus Billing vulnerabilities, Magnus Billing advisories, Magnus Billing POC, I came across this. So what this is doing is this web address allows for command injection. So what we can do is we can basically provide it local commands, and it'll execute them, which is not how it's supposed to operate, right? Your web server, your web application should not function in that manner. So what they're doing here is they're using sleep to test this. There are two ways that you can test for command injections, and that is using ping. Now there's a little issue with using ping in that unless you can see the reply back, you're not really going to know that you're getting a reply back. However, if you use sleep, the page will time out for the amount of time that you specify it for, thus letting you know that it's accepting the command and it's actually running it on the back end. So we are going to run that. And based on what that was showing us is, let me pull it up here. Let's go back there. If you can see here, it's also URL encoded. So for those that don't know, the %20 is just basically means a space. But the address bar sometimes doesn't understand that. So what you do is you URL encode it. It knows how to read that and translate it back to the server. Server will just run it what your actual intention is for. So we're going to use this as our test, and they're doing it for 20 seconds, or they're doing it for 30. That's what this is right here. For the sake of the video, I won't do it that long. Go ahead and paste this in. Oh, looks like I got this doubled up. I'll get rid of that. And let's change this to 5 seconds. That'll be easy to count. 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000, 4 1000, 5 1000, 6 1000. Okay, so we know it worked. The page didn't refresh for, I counted a little fast, but 5 seconds. Just to, you know, verify a little bit more, why don't we just, we'll go extreme and do 30, just to show you. We'll be sitting here for 30 seconds. All right, so while that's cooking, you can also do this in curl. I'll show you how to do that real quick. Just change our IP address. So we'll sleep for, yeah, 2 seconds is fine. 10.10, 127.111. And this should basically, here, I'll bump it to 5. So we're going to use curl to do the same, and we'll be able to see it on what this looks like. I'm going to specify time also. That'll just kind of give us the timestamp of how long it actually took, and we'll be able to see that it reflects 5 seconds. Jeez. And we can see here that it was indeed 5 seconds. So this is working. We know that we can now manipulate this page, which is cool. So just for the sake, I'm going to go back to the page so we don't stare at something that's super white and obnoxious. All right, so at this point, we know that we can manipulate and control this page. So what do? We're going to have to go out and look for some type of exploit or POC that is out in the wild for this. So after doing some searching around, I'll just show you in here. After Googling around, I found the Magnus Billing POC, or, you know, exploit. And what do we know? This guy is using curl to attack that. Oh, here's where it is. That PHP website. He is telling it to specify the HTTP GET request, and then he's going to URL encode the payload. So this is just a different way of doing it. At one point, I was able to just basically take this, and I created a HTTP parameter and slammed it into the address bar, and it worked fine. When I tried recreating that again for the video, it didn't work. So I don't know if they changed something since I last tested that, but using curl still works. Putting this into the address bar for whatever reason is kind of dead in the water. Even though it worked before, it was kind of a bummer. So go ahead and explain this a little bit. Okay, so we're going to use curl here, just like we did when we tested this. So let me change the IP again so this all runs smoothly. Okay, so again, we're going to be, here's our URL that we want to, you know, attack. Now, if you look at the URL, let's go back to here. So for those of you that don't know, when you're on a website, especially dealing with PHP, there's always going to be this question mark and then something after it. So this is a parameter, and then this oh, hold on. Okay, so this question mark is specifying a parameter. And then here's our parameter with an equal sign saying that it's looking for a value. In this case, the value that we're providing is the command that we are able to inject to control the back end of the server. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to change that to a reverse shell. So that's what they're doing here, except curl does it a little differently. So we're going to specify using the HTTP GET response or request. We're going to URL encode this, and then here's what we're going to provide. Now what this is doing is this service, or this parameter here, is going to create what is known as a first in, first out. It's just kind of like a bilateral connection, so that we can communicate with it. So what it's going to do is it's going to remove this temp F directory, and then it's going to make a new FIFO, or first in, first out, in that same directory. And then it's going to say anything that is in there to cat out. So it's using the cat command, just like you would to read a file. And then it's going to pipe it into a interactive shell. And anything within that interactive shell is going to get piped and sent out to netcat to our address. And then it's just going to output that back out into the temp F directory. So we're basically just creating a giant loop, right? And because we're using netcat to send it out to our machine, we're going to have a netcat listener sitting there waiting for these communications to come in. And then that's where we're going to be able to actually see this happening. So let's put our IP address in here so that this works. We're just going to do this over port 443. So that's what we'll set up the netcat listener for, which I don't even know what IP address I'm using. So let's look at that real quick. I am using OpenVPN, so I'm going to want the tunnel, not the interface. So let's grab this tunnel IP address so it works. And we'll paste that in. Okay, now before we run this, let's go to netcat. We're going to do netcat LBNP, I think? I always forget. For as long as I've been doing this, I can never remember what that is. It's the simplest thing. Yeah. Sudo. All right, now we're listening. Let's go back here. Actually, I don't need this anymore. Let's get rid of that. Let's rename this curl just so I can keep an eye on that. All right, so we should be able to run this. Okay, and if we go to our netcat, there we go. We have a shell. This accepted the connection, and we can now, all right, who am I? Asterisk. Just kind of funny. If you remember from our Nmap scan, there was a service running on here called Asterisk. We're running as that user. So things are starting to look promising here. Let me see here. So the next thing to usually do is upgrade your shell, right? Because we can't really, this is just kind of referred to as a dumb shell. We don't even know what directory we're sitting in unless we do print working directory. But it's nice if we have an actual real shell here where we can copy, paste, move the arrows around, recall old commands that we had. So sometimes this isn't very stable, but let's do it nonetheless. We're going to import bash, send that to the background. STTY, was it raw echo? And I don't know why, but sometimes that doesn't work for me. And then we'll do FG. Okay. Whoop. Then we got to do our export xterm. Okay, there we go. Now you can see the difference. Instead of just having a $sign here with absolutely nothing, and we're not really sure what's going on, this provides something that we're a little more familiar with, right? Kind of just like up here in a sense. So now we can do, who am I? You know, this is a little more user-friendly. This is what we're used to seeing. So we can start enumerating this. So these are the files we know we're asterisk. Here's the files in this directory. One of the first things that you always want to do when you're on any machine that you gain a foothold on is just run sudo L. And this will kind of point you into the direction of like what you have, what kind of commands and stuff you can run. And here's the interesting one. We can run this, whatever this is, without any password. So this, what I assume to be a standard user can run this without a password, which is kind of funny. Which tells me that this probably runs at a more elevated privilege from what the standard user account is. But they don't have to input a password to use it. So, let's enumerate further. Another thing that you always want to do once you get a foothold is run ID. And this will kind of tell you what kind of type of access you have. So we're your groups, your normal user, and such. So what's next? Let's go back. Let's learn more about whatever this fail to ban client is. We'll see if it's running. All right, so after we run psox, we're gripping fail here, just so that we pull out only the fail information. That's what grep is doing for us. We can see that the service here, the fail to ban server is running is root. So this user has root privileges as long as they're running it under fail to ban. So what do we do now? Well, like I had said in the beginning, looking deeper into whatever this asterisk is, this asterisk user, and whatever this fail to ban is, there's something going on there. We need to research it. What I was able to come across, copy this link. Just doing a basic search for, it was failed to ban POC, exploit or something like that. I came across this article. So apparently we can escalate privileges for fail to ban. So what fail to ban is it's almost, it's like a application firewall almost for a web server. So kind of works as like a IDS, IPS type of thing. So you can specify IP addresses into a block list, and it uses the fail to ban service to do that. So after I had gone through here, this article is pretty in depth. There's some enumeration stuff here to see what version you're running and all kinds of stuff. So I won't really go through that. It's not too necessary for walkthrough purposes. Here you can see, they kind of did the same thing. Run their PS, see who it's running as, root. And there's these jails, right? So these jails are what basically specifies the application, which IPs to block. So knowing that information, kind of diving in deeper, we've learned that the actual flaw, where is it? So here you can see that they ended up doing the same thing here just to see what users can run that. So basically, what's going on here is, I'm going to pull up my notes here. In order for this payload to work, we're going to have to restart the service, right? Once the service is restarted, we're going to input our command here, which is going to be bin bash, cat root. We already know where this flag is located, right? And we're just gonna tell this service to run a command, bin bash cat our root flag, output that to our temp folder that we're like running that cat through. And then we're going to tell it to change the permissions to 777 so that we basically, all groups, users, and people can rewrite, execute, yada yada. And then we just specify the folder again, the folder file, that this is what we want to change permissions on. Now where the magic comes in is setting the ban IP. We're just going to ban the loopback IP address, 27001. When we ban the IP is when this execution will happen. So basically, this just sits here. This is just like an IP table that you would just dump a bunch of IP addresses into that you want banned. You want them on a blacklist. These IP addresses shouldn't be communicating with this server. But there's something in particular with the way that this application runs, in that when you set an IP address, it basically executes like this action, an action ban. And I would assume probably puts this IP address into that list, whatever, and then it, whatever it does. But instead of specifying it to run a block, we're going to tell it to run a command. So we'll go ahead and do that. So we have to restart the service first. That was successful, which it should be because we know that we have the ability to control this, right? Now we're going to add in our payload. Okay. Now when we execute this, all right, that'll execute the service itself. That portion to run. Now we should be able to just do an ls al on that folder. There's our root text. It copied it over for us. Now all we have to do is cat root.txt and we'll have our flag. Now I completely bypassed the whole user flag, but we know that we can access that. So more than likely that's going to be in home. What do we got in here? Looks like Magnus would be the next level up. We're just gonna do that again. Let's see what's in here. There's our user flag. So we can access the user flag. If you wanted to read it, you would do cat user.txt. Now I'm not going to run it. It's up to you to kind of go through and do all this stuff. But nonetheless, I think that this was a pretty interesting one. For something that was so simple, I thought it was kind of cool that's how this worked. So I hope that you guys were able to take something from this. We got to see a little bit of a command injection. We got to see how we can enumerate a little bit further and take advantage of misconfigurations and further services to escalate privileges. And stuff like this happens every day. So even something so simple, I mean, for me to just jump on this and start running these commands, like if someone knew what they were looking for and they were familiar with this, I mean, they would gain root level access in like a matter of minutes. It So, especially when you have those public knowledge articles out there of the POCs and how those exploits work, and they pretty much provide you the commands, it gets pretty scary. So, I hope you enjoyed this one. I'll see you next time.